Okay, let's take a look at how we can use differentiation to see if your function is increasing or decreasing for your GCSE Maths exams. So if your function f of x is greater than or equal to 0, it's increasing. I'll explain the reason in just a second. If your function of f of x is less than or equal to 0, it's decreasing. Of course, when it equals 0, it's stationary, because that will mean your gradient is 0. It's a horizontal line. It's not increasing or decreasing. So, when your function has a gradient, so when we have this, what we're going to do is we're going to work out dy dx, right? Dy dx is just the gradient. If it's positive, it's increasing. If it's less than 0, so negative, it's decreasing. That's all it is. So you can either you can equate your function to either one of these values to find out if it's increasing or decreasing. So for example, you might be asked to show the function f of x equals x cubed plus 6x squared plus 21x plus 2 is increasing for all values of x. How do we solve this? This would mean if it's increasing, it would have to be greater than or equal to 0, right? So that basically means it's going to be greater than or equal to 0. So what we're going to do, so there's two different styles of questions you could be asked for increasing and decreasing function. This is style number 1. I'll answer it. And in just a moment, I'll show you style number 2. So this is our function, right? So we can first work out dy dx, because if it's increasing or decreasing, we need to know the gradient, right? 3 times x is 3. 3 minus 1 is 2. Plus 12x plus 21, and last one, there's nothing. Now, this is the gradient, right? 3x squared plus 12x plus 21. Let's just complete the square. Completing the square is kind of a hard question, but it's pretty easy. Let's complete the square, and then we'll be able to get a simplified version to show that this will always be greater than 0. Because right now, it's not exactly guaranteed, right? If x is, say, 10. I mean, it is kind of guaranteed, but we can still complete the square to just show it in a bit more of a clear way. 3x squared plus 4x plus 21. And then we can complete the square on the inside. X plus 2 squared minus 4 plus 21. 3x plus 2 squared minus 12 plus 21. So 3x plus 2 squared plus 9, right? And by the way, instead of writing dy dx, what would be preferred is to write f dash of x. That is the same thing as dy dx. It basically means the same thing, but because we're doing functions, instead of y equals something, it would be better to write f of x, f dash of x. Don't forget the dash, by the way. That shows it's dy dx. 3x plus 2 squared plus 9. Right? We can now say, therefore, 3x plus 2 squared plus 9 is greater than or equal to 0 for all of x. And therefore, f of x is an increasing function. Is an increasing function. Because if whatever value of x you have, say minus 100 plus 2, if you square it, it's going to become a positive, right? So it's guaranteed to be greater than 0, hence an increasing function. So when you have something like this, you just want to show it in a clear way that it's always going to be greater than 0 for increasing. For decreasing, it of course just be the opposite, right? Next one. Find the interval. This is the next this is another style of question you could be asked. Find the interval. By interval, it's basically just asking for something like this. The values x could be to meet certain criteria. So find the interval on which f of x equals x cubed plus 3x squared minus 9x is decreasing. This time we have a decreasing function. That means f of x is going to be less than or equal to 0, right? So interval, so it wants like a class interval, so it knows exactly what the x values would be. To do that, first we need the dy dx because it's always gradient, but because it's a function, we're not going to use dy dx. I mean, you would likely still get the mark if you do it in your math exam, but this would be the preferred way to do it. So f dash of x is equal to x, 3 times x is 3x squared plus 6x minus 9. So for it to be decreasing, this would have to be less than or equal to 0, right? Now the difference between this and the last question is we're just trying to show. We're just showing. We don't actually need the values of x. This time, we need to find the interval. That's why we're solving it for values of x now. Then we can divide everything by 3 because we have 3, 6, and 9. So we can divide all by 3 to give us x squared plus 2x minus 3. 0 divided by 0 is just going to be 0. And we can factorize this. X squared plus 2x minus 3. That's going to factorize into x plus 3 and x minus 1, I believe. Yep. And then we can just solve for x. So this is basically just the same as equaling 0. It just needs to be greater than or equal to, so x equals -3 or x equals 1, right? And then it's going to be a decreasing. Obviously the smaller number is going to come first and the bigger number comes after. And that's how you solve the interval. Let's take a look at one slightly more harder question. Yeah. Let's look at 2 harder questions for each, for the first question type and the second question type. Show that f of x equal to x cubed plus 16x minus 2 is increasing. So that'll mean 3x squared plus 16 minus 2, right? Remember, this just means dy dx. 3x squared plus 16. Oh, minus 2 doesn't happen because it doesn't have an x behind it. And 3x squared plus 16 would have to be greater than or equal to 0 to meet the criteria of it being increasing. Now already it's in quite a simple form, right? Whatever value of x is, even if it's negative 100, it's still going to be greater than 0, right? Therefore, for all of x, so if whatever value you put in for x, it's always going to be greater than 0. It's going to be increasing. The show that questions are pretty simple. You just need to show, just guarantee that it's going to be that, and that it fulfills the criteria. The find the interval questions are the ones that's time consuming. Find the interval for f of x equals x cubed plus 6x squared minus 135x is decreasing. Remember, that would mean f of x is less than or equal to 0, right? First, let's find the gradient function. 3x squared plus 12x minus 135. And that's going to be less than 0, right? We can simplify everything by dividing by 3, I think. Can we do that? Yeah, we can. X squared plus 4x minus 45. Yeah. I mean, less than or equal to 0. So we just divided everything by 3. 0 divided by 3 is still going to be 0. And we can factorize x squared plus 4x minus 5. So there's going to be 2 numbers that multiply to make 45 and add to make negative 45. So plus 9 and minus 5 should do it, yeah. So x is either negative 9 or x is equal to 5. So the smaller number is obviously going to come first. And x negative 9, x 5. And that is the inequality for it decreasing. Hope this video helped. Thank you for watching.